Hello and welcome everyone to a new Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era video. In this one, I'm going to be reviewing a faction, and the first faction that I want to review, the one that I'm most confident in so far to have like a pretty good read, is going to be Temple. We're going to be overviewing all of the faction's heroes, units, laws, and then I'll just tell you general things about it, okay? That is going to be the format of the video, and we're going to be doing it like semi-live. As soon as Luna stops harassing me. Okay, so the way that we're gonna do this is we're gonna be popping into a custom game, and then we can go Temple and look around throughout all of the heroes. So Temple has like numerous good heroes, however, not many super big exceptions of a hero, unfortunately. First up is we have Ister. Ister is going to be one of these logistics specialists. He has 5% moon points for every 8 hero levels, moves significantly more efficiently on the roads. So the moment that you see like one of these heroes, you might immediately be thinking, oh my god, it's Gunner, Dessa, Curie from Heroes 3, those were hella overpowered, so this guy's gonna be like super overpowered as well. And you're unfortunately wrong. This moves significantly more efficiently on the roads. It's actually the more important part of his specialty, as 5% moves for every 8 hero levels is unfortunately not a very big part of the hero. The more significant part is the fact that if you want to be moving a lot on roads on some specific templates, for example Sprint, he's gonna be your guy. So for Sprint, he's actually the best hero in the faction, in my opinion, but for other formats, he's gonna be usually outshined by some others. So yeah, but if you need Laga, then he's your guy, he's out there. Next up is we have Leon Sticky Fingers. This guy is a Pathfinder. There's no pathfinding skill in Olden Era, however, there are guys that specialize in it, and Sticky Fingers is gonna be one of these heroes. He has 1 sight radius, he suffers no terrain penalty, and has more sight radius for every single level. I mean, for every 5 levels that he ends up getting. He also starts off with scouting. So if you need to like explore, go off-road, and if there's gonna be like these sort of formats that are gonna be around, I can see Sticky Fingers maybe encroaching playability, but for now, I feel like you should mostly ignore him. He's not really like that significant. Next up is John Johnson, or more like Newbie Trap. Getting like a triple stack of your tier 1 and also specializing in them seems pretty good, because it used to be like a really good thing to do in Heroes 3. However, that's not really the case in Olden Era. The tempo is too high and your options are too plentiful in order for you to get stuck around with your tier 1. So you move on from your tier 1s pretty early, and then, you know, this John Johnson hero is not really like doing that much for you anymore. So basically what I'm saying is that, yeah, he's not really good enough, most usually to be picked as a first choice. Maybe if the format is like slow enough to where you really need that early tempo, then he could be your guy, but now not really. Next up is we have Kestrel. Kestrel is actually one of my favorite heroes. So if you know Heroes 3, you know Valeska. This is basically the Olden Era's version of Valeska. She starts off with offense. The reason why she starts off with offense is because we do not have archery as a skill. However, we do have archery as a sub-skill of offense. So you hit level 2, you take advanced offense, and then you have archery. Then you have like a really good tier 2 shooter stack that you can absolutely decimate the entire map with. And then you're usually going to be transitioning into like a very shootery kind of squad with Ostingers, the upgraded tier 2 shooters, as your main power stack. She feels like really good to play and is an amazing hero. And she usually is like not quite good enough to be banned by most players, so she actually slips by and you can actually play her, and you're pretty happy to do so. Next up is Aeos the Exalted. Friendly creatures have +1 morale. They also have a higher chance of triggering positive morale effect. 2% chance per morale point. For every 4 levels, this bonus is increased by 1%. So if you like go late game on this hero and you stack morale, your units will really be moving like twice every single turn, almost. Even without this hero, you can actually reach 45% chance morale. That is if you get all the appropriate laws, all the appropriate skills with all the specific sub-skills. Cap that I calculated to be possible for Temple is going to be 45%. Aeos is going to be probably making it possible for you to go like even far beyond the 45%. I imagine like 70% to be actually reasonably possible. However, this is like a late game dream, and honestly it's probably gonna be like just a dream. Nobody has really tried her yet. I'm like kind of by the way, in case you don't know, like Olden Arrow, at the time I'm recording this video, is out for like a very brief amount of time. All the best players are playing a lot, but you know, we haven't gotten around to testing like everything. So for now, Aeos is overlooked, despite having a really interesting specialty. Next up is we have Heretic Avis, who gets gems. Yeah, she gets a lot of gems and she gets recruitment. Honestly, I mean, if you really want to build angels, then she's gonna be probably better at it than some other heroes, but way worse at using them. So I would just completely overlook her. A filler hero, not very interesting. Next up is Kiandra, Cavalry Specialist. She will get 1 speed, 1 initiative, and 20% HP for Cavalry, and also increase their stats by 1 for every 3 levels. And she also starts off with like a few Cavalry. For some reason, people don't really like her, because Cavalry builds are honestly like pretty rare. Not many people play Cavalry, and even if they do, it feels like there's better ways to go about it, unfortunately. Like, I think the main problem is the fact that she actually cannot do a cavalry dwelling upon spawning. You know, she needs like a lot of help, a lot of setup in order to like just get some more cavaliers onto herself, so she kind of ends up feeling a little bit awkward to play, and not many people are testing her out from my experience. Next up is Lord Edgar. Friendly creatures gain 20% of his attack and defense as attack and defense, plus another 5% for 6-0 levels. This guy is amazing. I mean, he gets like a lot of stats. Like, he's Gunner, Tazar type superhero. I haven't experienced him that much, but he looks like pretty amazing. If you can afford to go late game, you're playing like a slow format where you think that you're gonna be like going late game, then Lord Edgar is definitely to be considered one of the strongest heroes out there. So far, as far as I know. Speaking of the strongest heroes, Old Lord Mandel is probably the second favorite hero that I've seen for this entire faction. He is a heroic strike specialist. He starts off with combat, and yeah, he's really good at just using heroic strikes. And heroic strikes right now feel really, really good on almost every single format, every single faction, every single player. Whenever they can get their hands on it, they go combat, leadership, and they just heroic strike the hell out of the entire map. And Old Lord Mandel does it really, really well. He also has a special effect for the heroic strike where he debuffs the target with a 10% damage amp. So whenever you heroic strike something, they will be taking 10% more damage for the rest of the round. And that's pretty good because you can get like a few heroic strikes off at a time, and then the damage amp really stacks up. It's pretty cool. I play this hero like pretty often as well, and he never disappoints, you know? Like, even if you bleed off your entire army, this hero itself is good enough to function and do a lot, and that means a lot. It's very valuable. Next up is Mary Elias, a very, very polarizing hero. I say this because he has a specialty that's very, very special, okay? He has +1 spell cap for each global map spell. His maximum mana is increased by 10%, plus another 5% for every 5 hero levels. So one, he gets like a lot of mana, okay? Like straight up, he has like basically intelligence specialty without even needing to have intelligence in the very first place. That is amazing, really good. Good mana is nice. Now, it might not be intuitive on what this one spell cap for each global map spell means. So let me tell you. It means that, you know, like at level 1 Dimension Door, when you unlock it from the Observatory, you get it from the template, you can use it once. And then at level 4, you get the option of using a second DD per turn. So you either DD once if you're poor or twice if you're rich. May realize the moment that he gets Dimension Door, he can use it twice. He can use every single global map spell, Time Portal, Second Wind, Dimension Door, 1 extra times per turn, and that is insane! So there's like a format in the current matchmaking called Vendetta. It's basically Heroes Free Duel, and in there you spawn with Dimension Door, TP, and Fly. And most usually people will not really be investing in upgrading Dimension Door because it's like a huge hurdle and usually like not worth it because you can DD like some already and it's usually like good enough. Elias spawns into the game being able to Dimension Door twice. And the biggest problem, mana, for him, he also like kind of covers. So in some formats, Elias is literally the best hero in the game by far. And it's not even close. For like a format like Vendetta, like nobody matches up to Elias. But in other formats where you don't really get control that early and you need like some more help in the early phases of the game, Elias ends up being not really like that good. So Elias's power is purely map dependent. So yeah, keep that in mind. So I said Mandel is like the first favorite hero of Temple. I think that Pip is actually the first favorite hero of Temple. I think that this guy in the matches that I've been playing, I don't always pick him even if he's open, but my opponents have been like 100% either ban rate or pick rate on Pip. This guy doesn't even do anything that special. He has like Insight, which is more experience, so he's like a learning hero. And when leveling up, he gains 1 additional attribute points for every 2 hero levels, so he gets like some more stats whenever he's like gotta be leveling up. And then he also has accelerated XP growth. Honestly, I mean, he feels like good, like stock, standard, you know, just like solid. I'm just gonna play like a classic game, but it's gonna be easier for me because I'm just getting like extra stuff. I'm getting extra XP, for the level ups I'm getting like extra stats, and I can like go any direction that I want to. I'm not really committing to a direction based on my hero. You know, like Mandel is committing to a heroic strike, but Pip is actually committing to nothing. So he can do whatever. He can maybe be like an avatar summoner, he can be like a daylight magician, he can just be a might hero, just go offense and stuff. No, not now. Later. Next up is we have Zenith. Zenith is a Lightweaver specialist. Lightweaver growth in your cities is increased by 1. So yeah, the hero specials, by the way, in this game also give like growth to those units, which is actually really helpful. Sometimes you like spawn in as like a unit specialist and you have like not a single dwelling out on the map for your unit. And then you can actually like play off of the specialty growth anyway, so it's like worthwhile to build these units out anyway, which is very, very helpful. She spawns with 2 stacks of Lightweavers, which is actually like a pretty strong starting army, so she has that going for her. And then a pretty important thing about her is that she starts with the spell Heavenly Blades. This is a daylight spell, tier 4 spell, that makes you deal a flat amount extra damage with each attack. And the thing is that getting this skill leveled up is like pretty easy, so you can go to like level 4 Heavenly Blades pretty easy, or at least like level 3. And then you're having like 75 flat damage for each attack. And then you go Ostingers who attack twice, and suddenly you're dealing like 150 extra flat damage with every single attack, which gets pretty toxic. It's a pretty neat strategy that's only good in like some formats, so I don't think that Zenith is like that great of a hero as she is. Next up is we have Leah, the Entethered One. She's a Daylight Magician Specialist. She gets +1 level of Daylight spells, and 1 more for every 10 hero levels. If she has Thaumaturgy, she can cast 2 Daylight spells in a single turn, which is like a pretty unique and cool benefit. And then also, the enemy cannot use Daylight spells. This one is kind of weird to talk about, okay? the way that it is, I read the specialty and I'm like, hell yes! Daylight levels is like amazing. Every single, you can like get immediate like super bless, like 40% damage across the board on all of your units using the specialty. It's really good. And then, you know, like getting to expert like radiant armor is also gonna be like pretty easy. And then also preventing the opponent from using daylight spells is also like sounds pretty toxic and pretty good. So I read the specialty and I'm like, the hero's supposed to be good. But honestly, it sounds better than it actually is from what I've seen. It's just like a little bit too all in on this. She like requires maybe like too much mana maybe. I don't know what her problem is. Maybe we just haven't warmed up to her, but nobody's using Leah and it's kind of a shame. So there's that. Then we have Julius, who starts with Masterful Healing Water. This version of the spell dispels all negative effects from friendly creatures. While casting the spell, the effective spell power is increased by 1 for every 3 hero level, so this guy is a cure specialist. Nobody really cares about him. He is trash. A filler guy. Next up is we have Vesper. Vesper is pretty interesting. Some people are actually like experimenting around with him. Out of like these like somewhat niche mages, he does actually see like some attention here and there. He starts with the Masterful Blessing spell. This version of the spell makes the target always deal maximum damage. While casting the spell, the effective spell power is increased by 1 for every 3 hero levels, so let me translate this for you. Bless is a tier 1 daylight spell, and at expert level, it will buff all of your army with 35% extra damage, I think. It's either 35 or 40, sorry. And then, yeah, but if you are Vesper, this Bless will not only give all of your army 35% extra damage, it will also make them always deal maximum damage. So it will have the OG Heroes Free Bless effect on top of the normal damage buff effect. And that's very powerful. People have been experimenting with him, and honestly, I haven't seen him all that much, but the fact that some good players are picking him up and sometimes playing him does like say, you know, does suggest that he has like some potential. Next up is Anastasia, the Meek. So she starts with the Masterful Arena Touch spell. This version of the spell increases the target speed by 1. While casting the spell, effective spell power is increased by 1 for every 3 hero levels. So, yeah, I don't really think that she's that good. Arena's Touch is a pretty good spell that gives initiative and max HP. It's gonna be buffing all of your creatures for like 20% HP whenever you're gonna be having your daylight spells leveled up. And giving this like +1 extra speed is not really like worth the entire hero pick. If you like at some point ran him into her accidentally, like it's like not the worst, but it's usually not something that you would pick. Not good enough. Next up is Nadir. He starts with the Masterful Vulnerability spell. This version of the spell makes the target always take maximum damage. While casting the spell, the effective spell power is increased by 1 for every 3 hero levels. And yeah, he starts off with Nightshade Magic, which is, you know, where vulnerability is at. And yeah, basically he's not good enough. Vulnerability is like a pretty cool spell if you need to like focus a stack down in the late game. Maybe, you know? It's a very expensive spell, it costs a lot of mana, and you don't usually have like that much mana. Not to mention clerics, usually clerics and temple really, you know, synergize with daylight magic more anyway. So Nadir is like kind of a weird hero that doesn't really like fit the bill. He's like the black sheep, but not really the good type. And the last hero that we have here is Clarissa. She's an economy lady. She doesn't really like do much, just brings like some more economy into the kingdom. And usually, I mean, most of these heroes do more than that, so Clarissa is just like not a very competitive pick. So yeah, to recap, the standouts here are gonna be Pip, Elias, and Mandel. Then Ister and Kestrel are close tier 2s. However, it's gonna be format dependent, of course. So now, we can jump into literally any game, and we can look at the units and talk a little bit about them. So, we are in a game, and we can just like click here in order to look through all of the units. I'll just get these out of the way. So, we have our tier 1, the basic old swordsman. These guys are way better than pikemen of Heroes 3. They are quite a bit more speedy. 5 initiative and 4 speed on an unupgraded tier 1 unit is actually pretty respectable. They are really tanky, sitting at 12 HP, and you know, they are your basic, like, unit that, you know, like, gets your game going. They will stay there alive on your side of the battlefield, while Mandel is gonna be, like, throwing out mad heroic strikes, you know? That type of unit. Then they upgrade to 2 upgrades. One of them is gonna be the Guard Captain. Guard Captain is basically Crusader from Heroes 3. Naturally, he was tier 1ified, but he attacks twice. Yeah, double strike. This is like very significant. It increases his damage output a lot, and he also gets quite a bit speedier. When it comes to speed, I would say initiative matters more than the actual speed, because, you know, being able to like move twice from the perspective of the opponents is actually the important thing in a Heroes of Might and Magic game. Then, you know, the speed, I mean, you would like more, but it's usually good enough. Then he also has like a pretty cool bonus of having the ranged defense. Not taking that much damage from range attacks on your already rather tanky unit feels really good. So if you get like a box or 2 of these Guard Captains, they can actually do like a lot of work. The other upgrade of this unit is gonna be the Sun's Aegis. By the way, I'm just gonna look, maybe there's a way to see both of them at the same time. Then will we be able to... No, actually, let's just look through this screen. Okay. The next one is gonna be Sun's Aegis. So this guy is even tankier than the Guard Captain, you know. Like, Guard Captain is about as tanky as like a swordsman, but if you upgrade to Sun's Aegis, he's gonna be a lot tankier, gaining 3 extra HP and quite a bit of defense skill. He has like a very special ability. The ability is Aegis. This creature and adjacent friendly creatures take minus 30% range damage, so he has an anti-range attack aura. So you place this next to your shooters, so they don't take a lot of damage from the opposing shooters. This is like the main way that you're going to be able to take like a tier 7 dwelling, you know, because you're going to be having to fight angels in the tier 7 dwelling, and angels are Giga Chat shooters, right? So the Sun Aegises will be able to like shrug quite a bit of that damage off for you. So they're important for that reason. You're usually not going to be upgrading everything to Sun's Aegises. Guard Captains are generally like more useful, but you're going to be taking some of the Aegises just for like that utility. Next up is the tier 2 unit, the Crossbowman. The Crossbowman ends up, he has like a +1 sight radius. So many of the units like have like specific effects, so they just like give your hero things, like, you know, like, hey, there's at least like one of me in your army, you now have like 30 extra mana. There's like a lot of that in the Olden era, and Crossbowman is like the first of such units for Temple. You get View from the Heavens on every single type of tier 2 shooter, Crossbowman. You get +1 sight radius, which is very helpful, you know. You want that. It's good. So yeah, he's like a basic shooter, shoots once, has like a pretty aggressive stat line, almost more damage than, you know, defense. The ratio of that is like way higher when it comes to like the tier 1, of course, as you would expect. We also have like a special ability. For 2 focus points, you're going to be dealing 20% more damage. This ability is usually not really like good enough to allocate your focus points without extra incentives, and we're going to be talking about those incentives in a little bit. So yeah, if you have like other ways to spend it, you usually want to spend your focus in other ways. Find bolts is like not that great of an ability. Crossbowman can upgrade into 2 directions. It's going to be Ostinger and Marksman. However, this name scheme is a little bit confusing, because Ostinger is the Marksman, and Marksman is whatever the hell else, I guess the Sharpshooter. So, If you upgrade to Ostinger, you're going to be getting the good old double shot that we all expect our castle tier 2 shooters to have. And yeah, that's basically all. They gain 1 speed, which doesn't matter. They gain 1 defense skill, which doesn't matter. And they gain the double shot, which is literally everything. And it's hella worth it. I would say that most of the time you're going to be upgrading to these dudes. However, if you're feeling spicy, you can play Marksman as well. So the reason why you would play Marksman is they have Sharpshooter. That means that they deal full damage at any range. So the way that the range damage works here is that it falls off when the further you shoot. And at peak fall off range, you're going to be only dealing like half damage. So honestly, like Ostinger and Marksman at peak range are dealing the same amount of damage, with Marksman having the benefit of having this piercing shot ability, which deals 50% basic attack damage. The target takes plus 25% damage until the end of the round. So basically this is like a marking shot where you're gonna be like dealing more damage to that unit. But this is like, I don't know, for some reason this doesn't really like feel good to use. At least in my opinion. I've never really found it that useful. And then there's also, you get like more initiative, so you're gonna be like shooting before some of the other stacks. However, this is also like, not really that great. I would say Ostingers are correct for like most situations. However, against like a tier 7 dwelling, I can see Marksman being better than Ostringer. But yeah, but I would still like pick this dude almost every single time. Next up is, in my opinion, the most boring unit of the entire faction. The Griffin didn't have much of a glow up here, almost whatsoever. There's still just like a fat pigeon that's like flying around and trying to be annoying to the enemies, but ends up being more annoying to you because they're like pretty hard to function. I mean, pretty hard to pilot to great efficiency. It does feel like they do quite a bit more damage. And they are actually like really fast. And they also have their good retaliations. The normal, unupgraded Griffin counterattacks twice per round. They also have a buff, Valiant Cry. It increases their attack skill by 5 and initiative by 1. Oh! It's sometimes decent, but honestly this is like the type of ability, just like Find Bolts, where you're gonna be like using this ability because you have like more focus than you know what to do with. In that case, you know, you're gonna be clicking this button. Then Griffins end up getting upgraded into the Temple Griffin and the Guardian Griffin. The Temple Griffin is just gonna be like a way speedier version of the normal Griffin with infinity retaliations. And yeah, that's that. And then the Valiant Cry is also gonna be stronger too, with 10 attack increase, which is honestly a lot. Like, they are increasing their attack by more than they have by default, you know? Wow. Then next up is we have a more interesting unit, which is going to be the Guardian Griffin. They have like a very special ability, which is Loyal Protector. Counterattacks each time an adjacent enemy attacks a friendly creature. So yeah, you put them next to your power stack, like your range stacks that you want to be protecting. And then if they ever get hit, this guy is going to slap them. And it's kind of like surreal, because you don't really expect like Heroes of Magic Combat to function that way. But yeah, like your shooters get hit, and then this Griffin is just like bad aggressor. Just kind of like gives them like a little love tap, you know, because it's a Griffin, it doesn't usually kill them, but it looks pretty funny. I don't know. Griffins are usually just like filler units that you don't really like focus on. If you happen to get them from a box, you're just gonna use them until they just bleed out. At least that's the way that I do it so far. Next up is the Lightweaver. Lightweaver is like a basic buffing, buffing range damage unit. You know, basically like the Monk of Olden era. They have like a pretty cool buff, which is Inner Glow. Increases the friendly target's creatures' attack and defense by 5, speed and initiative by 1. Now this is a pretty damn good buff. One, it's not necessarily a cell buff like Valiant Cry and Find Bolts. You can actually target this on anyone. That means that if you can have like a 1 stack of a Lightweaver, you can pretty effectively like use this buff to great effect. It also only costs like 1 focus compared to these abilities costing 2 focus. So it's like way easier to access and it's actually quite better too. An amazing ability. And they also like Pack a Punch, honestly. They deal a lot of damage. They can be upgraded to Hierophant. Hierophants can dispel units and they will increase the speed and initiative by 2, making the buff quite a bit more effective. However, and yeah, they also gain like quite a bit of attack and defense skill. And then the other one is Sun Herald. Sun Herald is the Sun Herald is the type of unit that you're going to be upgrading into if you're using them as a pulse type, because they gain like way more damage range. So yeah, they just function way better as a power stack. So yeah, Hierophant for 1 stacks and Sun Herald for power stack, I would say, is usually the way that I would go. Also note for damage, whenever this creature gains a positive effect, it gains +1 damage until the end of the battle. That's also pretty cool. That means that they basically like scale throughout the fight. Next up is Cavalry. These guys used to be pathetic during the testing phase, however, they got quite a bit of a glow up and now are actually proper units. They are like super fast and they are pretty damn tanky, sitting at 85 HP and 17 defense when they only have like 12 attack, by the way. So these guys are the ones that are going to be like running in, they're going to be like blocking the opposing shooters, and the way that they deal damage is by moving a lot and proccing the jousting bonus. Moving before an attack increases the damage by 5% per hex moved. So this is like the Cavaliers and Champions that we know from Heroes 3, and they deal a really good job. And also, they have like one of the more of like those kind of effects, you know, like you have like one of these on your army, and you have the Inspiring buff. Increases friendly creatures' morale by 1. So yeah, that's pretty good. And they also like ignore defense as well, which is, yeah, pretty good. They deal a surprising amount of damage, especially to higher units, because of that. They upgrade to Noble Cavalry. Noble Cavalry has the ability Charge. Increase the speed and initiative of all friendly creatures by 1 for 2 rounds. This is usually a little bit too expensive to use of an ability. But you might want to have like 1 Noble Cavalry in your army, so you can, you know, if you have like leftover focus or you're generating a lot of focus for some reason, you can, you know, use this. They also gain more jousting bonus and more piercing upon getting this upgrade. And they also have like 2 morale from the Inspiring. So yeah, if you have like a few cavalry, you want Noble Cavalry. However, if you want a power stack, you want to go for the Sun Spear Cavalry. These guys are monsters. So just like the Sun Herald, they are going to be getting damage whenever they gain a positive effect. So whenever they morale, whenever they luck, they're going to be like just increasing in damage. Which is, yeah, amazing. They basically have like inbuilt scaling throughout the fight. Very powerful in the Fanalka. They also have all of the upgraded passives here as well, with 10% per hex moved in terms of damage, 2 morale from Inspiring, and 40% penetration from Piercing Strike. Cool unit. And now we have the weirdest unit of Castle, and that is gonna be our new tier 6. It is the Inquisitor. So I have no idea what the Inquisitor is supposed to do, and I haven't like really gotten them to do anything quite yet. Sometimes I would get like a bunch of them from boxes, and then they're just like clunky units that are just like kind of sitting there. So okay, their design. They are Giga Tanks. They're the Nyx Warriors of Olden era, and they are in Castle. What makes them so powerful is the fact that they have absolute resistance, immune to all magic damage, straight up. How's that for an ability, you know? Just like, boom, there it is. And then also, they have Unyielding, ignores 30% of the enemy's attack when struck. So yeah, this is just like straight up the Nyx ability. They ignore the opponent's attack skill. That is amazing. Then their special ability is increased defense and speed, and dispels themselves too. So you want to debuff them? Nah, they're just gonna actually shrug it off. And then they also have like an AoE attack as well that they can use. Their stat line is also like pretty defensive. 24 defense compared to the 20 attack. 95 HP is like pretty respectable, though not really that much for a tier 6. But all of the other effects kind of make them, you know, giga tanks. Then their upgrades are going to be like pretty basic. They can go and be a Mother Superior, which gives them an insane amount of HP, 4 more defense skill. If you want your tier 6 stack to be like completely unkillable, you go for Mother Superior. These things will just not die. They now ignore 40% of the attack. Their buff now gives 10 defense and 2 speed. And also this creature generates +2 focus points when taking damage, so they're also gonna be like getting, you know, funneling more focus into your entire like buffing scheme here that you may or may not build. And if you want them to actually like do something, then you go for the Excommunicator. This is the offensive upgrade of this unit. They're still like giga tanks because they still have the unyielding and absolute resistance. However, they're losing 30 HP compared to Mother Superior, and they're reallocating quite a bit of their defense skill into attack. And they also gain a lot more base damage, and they are a little bit speedier. I mean, they gain speed but lose initiative. Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested to try and figure out where these units fit in. Like, they sound like they're really strong and really good, right? But in terms of like actual gameplay, what happens is that you have like these units that can't reach shit in the middle of the battlefield. Nobody cares about them, everyone's ignoring them, and by the time, by like the end game, they're like the only unit left alone in the battlefield, and they're just getting like heroic struck down because, yeah, that's what you do with such units. Yeah, kind of a weird one. I don't know. I like their design. I'm waiting for the meta to figure out how to fit them in. So yeah. And now, next up is we have the most exciting unit of the entire faction. Angels are not what we know them to be from Hero Stream. These are ranged Giga Chads. So yeah. They are a range unit, straight up. Not even like no melee penalty, just straight up just a range unit. They're flying, and their special effect is the fact that whenever whenever a friendly unit gets a buff, they're going to also receive that buff. And that's very powerful because there's a lot of buffs on Castle. So you remember I said, you know, like Ostinger is not usually going to be using Fine Bolts without extra incentive to do so. Well, Angel is the incentive. Whenever you're going to be like using Ostinger for him to buff himself, then Angel is actually going to be getting that buff from Forging Perfection as well. Then you can also like Valiant Cry the Griffin. The Angel is also going to be getting the Valiant Cry. Caw! Then you can also like use Exaltation on the Ostinger, then Angel receives it, and then he can collect all of those buffs, maybe like also even Infuse Armor. I have no idea where you're pulling all of that focus from, but let's say, then you can use another focus point and use Refract and Reflect. Applies a copy of all positive effects currently in this creature to a friendly target. And then, you know, like you can get all of these buffs and then target it on a different pile stack. Maybe it's not a temple unit, maybe you give it like to a massive stack of cavalry or whatever. So angels can collect buffs and then share them. So, you know, before like trying Olden Era, I was like already reading these abilities, I was looking at these units and I was like, oh my god, angels are like, you know, like these heavenly creatures, they're gonna collect the buffs and they're gonna share them. Wrong. I've never done that. I played Kent Temple many times. You know what I do? I build angels and I click on the opponent's face. And, you know, I shoot him really hard with very high damage. Dude, this takes a turn. I mean, you could have maybe like Angel 1 stacks and like try to make it happen on the side while your Angel power stack is gonna be like shooting. Like maybe, but not really. You ignore this buff sharing thing, you focus on the buff collecting thing, you know? Your angels are gonna be just like smacking really hard, and all of your other units are gonna be working diligently in order to try and get as many buffs out, not for themselves, but for the angels instead. And that's usually how this faction like really functions hard, you know? Like that's where when Temple is speaking, in my opinion. So, long awaited, let's see the upgrades. So Angels go in like two very different directions when it comes to like their upgrades. The first one, I think the first we should talk about Apotheosis. So Apotheosis is probably like one of the strongest units in the entire effing game. Their stats are absolutely wacky. They have like insane speed, insane initiative, you know, all that good like upgraded to your summon jazz. They have like lost their melee penalty. Suddenly they can be like a full-fledged melee unit. They can like still shoot, and they have like a super amazing aura as well. This creature and adjacent friendly creatures are immune to all negative effects. You know, there's an Olden era, there's like a million things that are trying to actively give you negative effects. Apotheosis just like completely ignores all of that, and not only does he ignore it, he actually even has an aura of ignoration, of like being above you. This unit is Giga Chad, one of the strongest units in the entire game, and I absolutely hate them. No, I mean, I like them, but like, I don't know, their design compared to the effing Archangel. Look at this creature. Now, this creature is one of my favorite creatures in the game. They look amazing, and when you get to use them, they are so good. So, let's talk about the Archangel now. So, when it comes to the Archangel, they are very, very heavily leaning into their glass cannon and ranged archetype. They, compared to Apotheosis, they have 5 more attack skill, and they also have 2 more initiative, which will mean that they get to like act way sooner into the fight, meaning that you will be dying sooner as well. Very meaningful. So yeah, Archangels are units that you really like need to care for. Yeah, you need to care for them a lot. You need to protect them, make sure that they move. Whenever they move, you need to like buff them. Like it's, if you're going to be playing Archangels, you need to be playing like fully around them, for them. And if you do, the payoff is immense. They are one of the highest damage creatures in the entire game. They have Sharpshooter, so they deal full damage at any range, which is amazing. But, I mean, yeah, it's very hard to go for Archangels, despite them being so awesome, because Apotheosis exists. They gain 75%, they gain 75 HP, you know, they lose their main downside of being a ranged unit, they gain an insane aura, like... They also can do like this thing where they can just spend some focus in order to like be immune to damaged ones. You know, like no big deal. Just gonna be like immune damage here for like a tiny little bit. So yeah. Archangels have like really rough competition. But honestly, both of these upgrades are awesome. And I love the Castle Tier 7 from the basic Angel to the Archangel and into the Apotheosis. So these are the units. A really cool lineup. The synergies and how they should work together is like pretty obvious, with the almost every single unit having like a buff of sorts that the Apotheosis or your Angel can receive and then possibly share. Not really, they're mine, not yours. And yeah, so that is like the archetype. Buffing and buff sharing. Because they are the buffing type of faction, they mainly specialize in Daylight Magic. As we already went through the heroes, the spells that you're going to be using in this faction are mostly going to be Daylight. So you're going to be having Bless, which is going to be giving you 35% damage across all your units. Then on tier 2 you have Jack Shit, on tier 3 you kind of have Riposte. Riposte is amazing. It will make you retaliate before you get hit on all of your units and give you like way more counter strikes. It's pretty toxic of a spell, it's really good. Then you also have like Arena's Touch as well, which is going to be giving you 20% HP across all your units alongside Initiative, which is really important. On tier 4 you have like a really big payoff for Daylight Magic as well that the Temple usually really wants. A level 4 Radiant Armor is going to be giving you 40% damage reduction from any source on all of your army. One of the most broken abilities, feels super good to use, amazing. And then also, for some reason, Daylight Magic just happens to have the Olden Era equivalent of Implosion. this like buffing archetype. I mean, it's like this in with almost every single School of Magic and Olden era. So Daylight Magic is like the buffing archetype, but there's like a curveball, you know, just like a straight up curveball. Oh, by the way, this buffing archetype of Magic also has Implosion, and it's this Judgment. Honestly, I kind of like it. Almost every single School of Magic has like this sort of type of curveball, big spell in the list. And honestly, it feels great. Yeah, it's very interesting. When playing, it's just like quite a bit of fun. Sometimes a mage is gonna go Daylight just to like be able to judgment someone just much better. You know, just go for Implosion, Lamau. So yeah, that's that for spells. And then the laws are pretty basic here. On tier 1, they have Faith in Magic, which is going to be astrology points. Having astrology points available to you in your laws is usually like a pretty good thing. Just like an asset to have. They also get scouting radius as well, which is really, really good. Yeah, that's nice. The resource laws are generic. These exist in pretty much, I think, in every single faction. Resource riches 1, 2, and 3, of course. Their unit specialties are pretty good. Griffins are gaining 5 HP from the specialty. Light Weavers are gaining 2 damage. Cavalry are getting more armor penetration and speed. Yeah. Then the Inquisitors are ignoring more of the attack skill, so yeah. And I think the Elite Angels are probably going to be like the standout law for the units, because they gain 25% of the hero's attack and defense as attack and defense. So that means that stats are just more efficient on Angels. For every 4 attack, you're going to be getting 5 attack when picking this point 1 point. And I think they go up to 50% with the second law point too. Then their big payoff laws are gonna be all your temple heroes can learn any spells of any tier. That means that late game temple actually doesn't need wisdom or even the schools of magic at all. They're just gonna be having access through faith alone to higher tier spells. Very interesting. I haven't really gotten to use it because like by the time that you're in a position to like pick up the slot, you usually have your casting like kind of figured out. You either picked up like a skill for it or you found like a tome for it, you know, like yeah, I haven't really had like much use in this. Then there's also Hero's Blessing. Friendly creatures gain 25% of their hero's spell power and knowledge as attack and defense respectively. Now this is a really, really powerful law because this turns your caster stats into might stats. Not a super huge percentage, but this is basically like battle magic secondary skill in the form of a law. And you know, like you pick this up late game when you already have like some stats and you just get like significantly more powerful, just like straight up. Very powerful. I love this one. Then we also have Sacred Lands. Friendly creatures are immune to negative effects when fighting on their native terrain. Pretty garbage. I mean, listen, if you're going to be fighting on your native terrain, that means that something is really screwed up with your game. You haven't like ventured out into the world. You haven't like, you know, like invaded the enemy or something, or at least like went into some contested territory. You're just like fighting at home here. That's pretty pathetic. Your game is probably garbage if you're picking up this. Or you're very lucky. Another very standout law is going to be Encouragement. So Encouragement, as you can see, like, Castle really likes the morale, and they have, like, a lot of, like, heroes with leadership, so yeah, you're gonna be stacking up quite a bit of morale. And Encouragement is gonna be giving you more morale per morale. So you can morale more. So yeah, when you pick up 3 points, every single point of morale, instead of giving you 4% chance to morale, is going to be giving you now 7% chance to morale instead. Which is awesome. Yeah, it just makes you like morale a lot more. And it's like a very, very cheap law and a super, super effective one. The moment that you get to this tier, make sure to like pick this up. Another good law is Vengeful Strike. Vengeful Strikes make your counterattacks deal quite a bit more damage. Now that's like good, okay? Like, yeah, I'm gonna get hit, then I'm gonna hit back for more. Up to 100% more damage, which is pretty ridiculous, right? But you know, like, it's a counter-strike. You're not really usually relying on counter-strikes. Unless you're going Daylight Magic. which you are because you're playing Temple, and then you click Riposte. Target-friendly creature counterattacks before enemy attack lands. Wow. Suddenly, I'm basically hitting you twice before you get to hit me. Oh, you want to hit me? You have to take a frenzy hit into your face by me personally before you get to hit me. Very good strat. It's honestly amazing. I did that like once or twice, and yeah, it feels really good. Riposte from plus Vengeful Strike is really good. In order to make sure that your riposte is going to be like high level, or any other daylight spell is going to be high level, you're going to be getting Sun's Grace. You know, Temple overall has like a big affinity with daylight magic, and you know, they even have like a law for it. That's going to be just like point blank increasing all of your daylight spells by 1 level. Very powerful. Then the last noteworthy laws are going to be Execute Excellence. If you don't really like have buff duration because you haven't like really gotten any power yet, you can rely on Execute Excellence in order to like have more buff duration. And also all of your unit buffs are going to be like lasting longer too, which is a pretty powerful effect to have. It's a nice one. And then if you have like 5 points of tolerance at any point, then you can gain 1 flat initiative. It might seem pretty expensive, because it is, but initiative is very precious. Being able to like move either first or last based on your wishes is a very big privilege, and this is getting you far closer to being able to choose that. So yeah, that is a basic overview of the faction. I mean, I always like love Castle, and the castle here of the Olden era feels really great. I already have like an amazing Archangel game played on the Exodus template on my YouTube, so you know, go check it out. Or maybe come watch me live on twitch.tv/Lexav. I play every day, 8 hours a day these days because I'm a bit addicted to Olden era. And if you want to see these type of videos for all of the other factions still, then please let me know if you enjoyed this. I thank you all for watching, and I will be seeing you next time. Bye bye!